So hello everyone. We are back with our third and the last session, which is part of this exciting virtual agriculture roundtable. On 12th, we covered pulses and we talked about the various commodities which are part of the pulses basket, from pigeon pea to black mape to chickpeas, yellow peas, definitely lentils. So we had a very interesting discussion with some of the renowned name in the pulses sector. Yesterday on 13th, we had a great discussion on grains, predominantly covering wheat and rice, and also touched upon maize because one of the debate, which was very interesting, was about food or fuel. And maize plays a very important role as grains in that. So we had, again, excellent speakers who shared their insight and views. Today, we will be talking about oilseeds. Oilseed is also one of very important sector when it comes to the trade between India and the world in segment of food and agriculture commodities. India has been a large importer of vegetable oils, and all of you might be aware that we are talking about import of close to 16 million metric ton, which has increased, if you see that from the previous year, 14 million metric ton. And when we talk about this current marketing year, which ends in November, we might be just close to what we imported last year, something between 15 to 16 million metric ton. So this makes vegetable oil, and hence the oil seed, from where the vegetable oils are derived, a very important sector. And as you are aware, we are having some of the topmost speakers lined up, and they are from all across the world, from different parts of the world, and they'll be joining one after another. And I believe, my team would take care of them because in case there is a challenge of them logging on, definitely my team is there to assist them. Before we delve a little bit deeper, I would like to explain you the agenda, why we are here and why we are having these roundtables. Honeybee has been doing such roundtables for a really long time, where we have covered various aspects of agriculture and food sector, from technology to innovations to policy to agriculture input, commodities, and we regularly come out with such webinars to update our audience about what's happening in the commodity sector, providing them the right insights which can help them in their business. We are assembled today to also celebrate one of the event, which is a flagship event of Global Grains and Pulses Council, which I have co-founded, and which is also part of Indian Chamber of Food and Agriculture, which itself is the only chamber in India recognized by Government of India active in food and agriculture sector. And GGPC has been intervening for past couple of months in various aspects of agriculture commodity trade. We intervened when there was challenge between getting the supplies from Mozambique for the pulses. And we are thankful to the Honorable Prime Minister who intervened in that, his office intervened in that. And then now we have seen that the situation has been excellent and the things have moved pretty decently. At the same time, GGPC is also having GrainsWorld, which is going to be held in Dubai as its flagship event. And every year we intend to take Indian agriculture and food sector to the world, starting with Dubai, and we will be going across all the 5 key continents in the world, from where India either imports or India export their agriculture or food commodity. Let me just share my small brief presentation about what the grain world is all about, and then we'll delve deep into our panels and have very insightful sessions. And again, I would like to thank my panelists, Dr. Pathak, Bharat, Thakkar, Nirav, Desai, Dr. Anupam, Barik, Zirack, Andrew, Sandeep, Bhan, Alok, JAYESH, Sandeep, and Nasim Ali, who have been kind enough to accommodate our request to join these panels and have a fruitful discussion on oilseed. So, as I said, the grain world is actually supported by Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. They'll be playing very active role, and we are expecting some of the key ministers and the bureaucrats to be in Dubai to look at these deliberation and understand how the world is looking at Indian agriculture commodity sector in general and the food sector in particular. The event is also supported by International Grain Council. We'll be having a co-event, which would be a couple of sessions with the International Grain Council as well. And then definitely we are having marketing partner, which is one of the company I am the founder of, Honeybee, which has been active in this domain to disseminate the information to stakeholders in agriculture and food sector. Now, as any of the conferences, the objectives are very simple. We want to disseminate a lot of information We want to promote seamless trade between multiple countries, both inbound and outbound to India, as well as also it would be a great networking platform where stakeholders from Africa, Europe, Latin America, and definitely Asia and India would be participating. And this is where we want that it should not be just a platform for exchange of information, but also the trade should happen. We all know the success of the Gulf food. We are trying to make a miniature Gulf food which is focused on global trade to and from India. And that's with that noble idea, we want to promote India globally as an agriculture superpower. And these are some of the session. We might see a little bit of modification in that as we get closer to the event itself. So we are having a CEO's roundtable where we'll be discussing about the policy implication from across the globe, as well as how the trade looks and outlook of the same going forward. Some of the commodities which we'll be discussing includes pulses, cereals, vegetable oils, and oilseeds. So pulses, we would be covering typically all the five key commodities in the basket, which are having very important role to play when it comes to Indian plate, which includes pigeon pea, black mape, desi chickpeas, lentils, and not to forget the new emergent player, which is yellow peas. Grains, we would be covering millets because we had the International Year of Millets just last year, and India is one a dominant player when it comes to production of millet. We would be also discussing wheat, rice, and maize as a part of our cereals package. In oilseed, predominantly we would be focusing on soybean, which is again a talk of the town and one of the large crop. Then we'll be talking about oil palm, we will be talking about sesame, we will be talking about sunflower, and we will be talking about rapeseed or mustard as well. And as I said, like, veg oil is derivative oil seed. We'll also be talking about all these major vegetable oils which India consume extensively. And when it comes to the target audience, we are looking at a lot of government officials joining us. In fact, the Grains World was launched in Delhi a month back with the Honorable Agriculture Minister of India, Shri Shivraj Singh Chauhan ji, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, one of the key agriculture state in India, Shinde ji, as well as we had the Honorable Minister for Road and Transport, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, and various agriculture ministers from different states of India were also participated in the launch of GrainsWorld. Looking forward to their participation in Dubai as well. Then we would be having key industry leaders, not just from India, but across the globe, because we are also looking at the possibility of how we can engage with those players who are already not doing business in India, but showcase India as a lucrative business opportunity for food and agriculture sector. Then we would be having some international organizations, including FAO, CGIAR, ICRISET, all of International Rice Research Institute. All of them also have, in principle, confirmed that they would be sending representative, and we will be having a very fruitful discussion with the international flavor. Then we'll be also touching upon the innovators. So as we have a session on technology innovation, we would be having some of the key technology players, some startups which have really innovated in a way where they can increase either the productivity, efficiency, or reduce the cost of cultivation as well as production for Indian agriculture and food sector, and representative from the food service industry as well as retail industry and the ancillary industry, including the quality assessment, the logistic, as well as the service industry. And benefits, I'm not going to go deep. Most of you would have attended a lot of events. You understand yourself, like in what are the benefits. And only thing we can commit to you is that we will be having excellent content and environment for fruitful discussion for the trade to happen. With that, I would take a pause, and you can visit our website. And in case you feel you want to join as a delegate or as a partner, for those who want to join us as a partner, the Grains World and GGPC, they are having some packages as well. So all those who are the GGPC members, they are getting extensively discounted price when it comes to them becoming partner with the GrainsWorld Conference and Expo 2024. We look forward to welcome you on Dubai from 27th to 29th November 2024. With that, I'll stop the marketing blabber and get into where actually all of you are waiting for. And for that, actually, I would like to invite my first panel, which was on soybean. So I would request my colleague, Mr. Neeraj, and the team to bring all of them on stage, and then we can have a fruitful discussion, starting with soybean. Neeraj, can you help with the video and audio of all the panelists, please?
Can you take me on first because I have other things
Yes,
to
sir.
do.
Pathak Saab, you are always the first because you have been waving the flag of soybean industry. No, sir.
Not for that. Not for that reason, because I said I'm traveling and I will be going into a meeting. I'm right now in a car, as you can see. So
no, sir. I totally agree
happy
with
to
you.
be.
Like because, sir, you are our the face for the soybean industry. Sir, so before I start my conversation, I straight away come to you, Pathak Saab. Pathak Saab, we are seeing that
Yes.
let me be to the point. We are seeing the challenges. We are seeing the challenge in the sense that our farmers, irrespective of what has been the price, the challenges around it, still they have been if you see that the recent sowing number, they have been doing a fabulous job. But when it comes to the achieving the prices, we are seeing that prices are pretty low. Your views, initial thought on that, sir, how do we see that our farmers doesn't get disheartened and move away from soya?
In fact, I've been traveling over the last 2 weeks and meeting a lot of plants. And in fact, just coming from Kolhapur, I was in Nanded last week. There is a huge despondency in the entire soya industry. What is the government doing? Why don't they listen to anything? The farmers, of course, have responded by having the same area as last year. It's not gone up, but it's not gone down either. But the kind of prices that they're getting now, and the kind of crushing that we have seen in the industry, there is no demand, there's no export possible. We have been able to export just because of Iran and Pakistan. So there is a huge despondency, and we are really worried as to where is this industry going, what is going to happen, what is the future. In fact, people have started worrying whether soybean has a future in India. Of course, I keep telling them that we have a future. It's a short-term thing, but I am also getting a little worried now as to where is the policy leading us. And then we have the additional threat of DDGS, a lot of DDGS going to soybean meal, a lot of changes happening in the industry. So yes, there are huge amount of challenges, and I don't see anything in sight to overcome those challenges.
Sir, but we have seen that our soya industry, with all the challenges, they have been doing phenomenal work. And actually, if you see in last 3 years, our soya meal has actually increased close to 7 times. Now we are exporting 2.1 billion metric ton of soya meal. So why is you see that actually this is not being considered government and trying to do the policies which are actually would take away a huge amount of earning also in dollar terms.
That's just a number. That 2.1 billion is just a number because this year we have seen Iran taking a large amount of soybean meal. Otherwise, there would be no export. The Europe is gone. They are not buying anything either. Southeast Asia, Japan, big market, they're not buying only for food items. So this 2.1 million ton is being run by Iran and some Pakistan. This is not something which is normal. And I don't think Iran will continue to buy like this. They are in trouble, so they are buying from us. But this is going to go in long term. Look at our prices. Our price of soybean meal are more than $100 up, higher than anywhere else in the world. Then now Bangladesh has created another problem. They will buy or not buy, I don't know. But right now the political scenario seems to be that they may not even buy either. So there is problem. This 2.1 million ton is not a figure to be considered because it's a bogey, an outlier.
Right, sir. I totally understand with you. So we need to do a little bit more in case we want this number to continue. So one more question that we are seeing that the soybean prices globally has also come under a lot of challenges, right? We are seeing that because of the very high production. I'll share that number later on. But global numbers are pretty high. At the same time, we are seeing that when we go to the soybean oil prices in India, they have actually gone up by 8%. And while the soya bean prices are going down, right? It is if you see 8% lower than the last year, the Indian soybean prices. How do you see this challenge where actually the oil prices are not going down, but at the same time soybean prices are pretty low?
Give me a second. Suvarna, 10 minutes. Suvarna. Okay. That's another. Soybean production is going up. Obviously, the prices have to come down only. Production, in fact, not only soybean, other oils production is also going up all over the world. The palm is doing so well. Sunflower is doing so well. The major crops are really doing well everywhere. Canola has gone up. In India, rapeseed mustard has gone up significantly. So there is a supply that seems to be coming in. And with that there, I think we can only see prices remaining subdued. There's no hope anywhere of soybean oil or oil prices running up any soon, unless the demand pattern shifts. But I don't think that will happen, because we know the world population, we know the consumption. Consumption, which was growing in India at a faster rate, now has to taper down, because we have now reached a plateau. In fact, we are already consuming more than what we should be. So the pressure will remain unless there is a tremendous shift from one crop to another crop, like US or Brazil shift from soybean to corn, or China does that. The pressure will remain unless the shift takes place. And I don't see that happening immediately. Maybe the ethanol story will change things, and if everybody starts using ethanol, corn for ethanol, then soybean will take a second place, and there will be more corn. So let's see.
Right. So how about the acreage number which you are seeing? Like, do you think that acreage number of 12.4 million hectares, right, is something close to reality, or you see that actually, like, that could be a little bit lower than actually what has been estimated?
Reduce it by 4.5 lakhs. That's what I have done.
Okay. So we are looking at, like, less than 12 million hectares of soya this year?
Little less than 12 million hectares, yes.
Excellent. And so do you see actually also some improvement in the yields, because last year was El Nino and the yields were low? But do you think that this year actually, if yields are better, then actually it will counter whatever the lack of acreage was?
What I see now shows me that the yields are excellent right now. In fact, everywhere I've traveled, oh my God, what kind of crop I see. No issues, no problems. There are some concerns about rains. We need rains in Maharashtra and other places also. But that's not a huge concern. If it rains, it will be fine. So right now the crop is in an excellent condition. We will certainly have better yields and better crop than last year.
So one last question, last question before I allow you go, sir. Sir, when we talk about soya oil, sir, do you think like that the import which was like done last year, 3.6 million metric ton, we will retain that, or you see fall in that?
It may be a little more than last year.
Okay, that's a breaking news. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Pathak sir. It's always pleasure talking to you. It's sad that we have to let you go, but I understand you took time out from your busy schedule while between meetings, jumping the meeting. But without your intervention, sir, this session would have been incomplete. So thanks a lot for blessing me always with all your love, sir.
My pleasure to being there. I'll rejoin later on if I still have time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Please, sir. Thank you. So
right,
yeah. So now I'll go to our the man with the data, Nirav Desai bhai. Thanks a lot for joining. It's always a pleasure to have you on board. Sir, I'll be now churning out some data points, right? Sure. And I either need your blessing or domination, that these are not right data. But let me try in front of you. So, sir, if you see that soybean, I'll start with the first of all the diagnosis itself. We have seen that the previous year, we were looking at the forwards futures of soya to be at $630, while currently now we are close to 404 to 410. So there has been substantial fall in that. But if you see that the numbers because of which this fall has been seen, from last year, US production has just increased by close to 7 to 8 million metric ton, reaching 122 million metric ton, right? Against 113.8 odd last year. If we see that, even
latest USD is 124.9 million.
So this is actually I've taken from the trade numbers. I know USDA number are little bit, sir, और खुद का US का तो inflate कर ही देते हैं. So at least US numbers I have not taken from the US. And when we talk about, sir, the export, yes, there we are seeing substantial jump of 4 million metric ton added in the US kitty, when they talk about export. Based on that, sir, the stock position has also that is what have improved because the yields have increased. Now global numbers also I see that. There is a huge, increase in that. It has reached to close to 423 million metric ton against 398 odd last year. So again, there is a huge jump when it comes to that. But you see that consumption also has actually catched up with that. the consumption is also like increased by 28 million metric ton. So in that scenario, it is not that actually like everybody is dumping soya, but you see correction of close to 220 US dollars. That's huge. Brazil crop is good. Argentina is bad, and like China, if you see that their import has also some report quote that it is going to increase by 2%. Some reports say that this is going to decrease by 3 to 4%. But overall, the demand has not diminished substantially in China also. And they are also stockpiling. If you see that past 4 years, every year they are increasing their stock by 2 to 3 million metric ton additionally. So if it was 39 odd in 2021, 22, 22, 23, it was 42, and 23, 24, it's 45. So they are also adding up, right? As we move forward, this stock. And I believe that that mindset is going to continue till they reach to the level where they're at 50 million metric ton. So the demand has not diminished. And coming to India numbers, we all know that actually they were close to roughly 12 odd million metric ton. So with all these numbers in place, how do you see this $220 right downside year on year from last year?
So basically, I would say the world from deficit of soybeans or from weather issues, where we saw the Argentinian crop nearly getting half, the US crop was also not that great. Everywhere the crops have really improved. This year, we had full recovery in the Argentinian crop. The Brazilian crop initially had some issues, but broadly, the Brazilian crop has been on a continuous increase, though they had some flood issues in Rio Grande do Sul, which did bring the production down a little bit. But I would say still overall from last year, the production was maintained. So, and the current year in US, the weather is very good. And that is why we are seeing the USDA improving the yield and improving the final production number, which I would say anybody's number, private forecasters number or USDA's number, the US crop is higher than last year. If we talk about India, the Indian situation is last 2 years, we have been carrying the soybean stock into the next year and a good amount of soybean stock into the next year. This year also, the area is quite well covered. If we talk about the yields, as Pathak ji is also talking, the weather has been kind till now, and there is no major problem in yield anywhere. So this again creates a good crop prospect for the current year also in soybeans in India. So broadly, there is no weather issue, there is no crop scare, there is no acreage reduction. Everywhere the supply is good. Yes, the good thing is the consumption is as it should go on increasing steadily is increasing, which is going to consume this extra beans that we will be producing. But because of this, I would say a very well supplied ecosystem, forecast of higher end stocks, there is a continuous, I would say, hammering on the soya meal and the soybeans futures on Chicago, as well as on the physical prices. When we talk about India, particularly India, the biggest issue has been the DDGS, which has really replaced a lot of meals, not just soya meal, but even mustard meal and other products, because it's very reasonably priced. It has a decent amount of protein content. So for any poultry or animal husbandry industry, they would try to make their formulations in such a way that their feed cost is lower. So they're trying to do that, and they're trying to accept as much as DDGS that they can. On the other hand, yes, Iran and Europe was a good buyer, but last year, initially, because of the Argentinian issue, we even exported to Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam, especially Vietnam, a lot of meal. Bangladesh was a regular buyer. This year, before this Bangladesh fiasco happened, before that also, Bangladesh was quite well covered for till OND for the soya meal from South America, from Argentina. So there is a good coverage by the traditional buyers like Vietnam and Bangladesh. And now you have the Bangladesh issue also. So we can't do anything there. Pakistan requires, I would say, non-GMO beans, but India and Pakistan don't trade together. So India has a glut of beans, whereas Pakistan has a deficit of beans. So that also there is no trade flow that is possible. So I think overall this market is going to be under pressure. I would not say a big value reduction can happen, but there is no major chance for upward movement of the prices. On the contrary, I feel for some time till there is any new development on the weather side, on the demand side, or there is some new angle that comes up anywhere, I don't see a major upside as well. So maybe the market's going to be hanging around at this low levels internationally and as well as in India. If we talk about the soybean prices, the MSP is at 4,800 plus, and the current price of soybean in India is 43, 4,400. And I also feel that next year, the beans that we import from Africa is not going to happen in India. Africa will have to find newer homes, or they might not be able to send, if they don't find any newer export destinations, they might not sell as much as they used to sell in the last 2, 3 years, which is a big new flow that had developed. So this is how we might balance it out a little bit. But yeah, net still we have good supply of beans. We have a limited demand for meal. The domestic demand for meal has got trimmed because of the DDGS, and the export is going to be more dependent on Iran and more dependent on Europe. So that's the situation on the beans.
I would also understand from you, Nirav, actually, as you rightly mentioned, the MSP is good 6-7 rupees higher than what is the current market price. And harvest, generally, you see a little bit of dip. The dip depends, it could be 3% or it could be 10%. But in this scenario, if the government has to buy, right, something around 12 or 13 million metric ton of soybean, that's a big number. And then second is the disposal is the issue. But or in case government doesn't buy, doesn't intervene, I doubt actually, and because, the MP and the Maharashtra, let's say 80 to 90% of the total crop coming from there. And both are very sensitive regions when we talk about soybean. And Maharashtra is going to elections also. do you see government intervention could, lift the price a little bit or morale a little bit?
Yeah, so basically, how does the government come and intervene? We have to see. We've not seen the government buying soybeans a lot like they've bought mustard by NAFED, because like they procure mustard or they procure chana. Soybean has never been procured too much by the government. There was a 3-4 years back, there was a Bhavantar scheme, but that was an excellent scheme. But I don't know whether the government will bring in that, or they will increase the import duty on soybean oil as SOPA has requested. But see, I think there is a big dilemma in the government. The government is continuously under pressure for inflation. And because of that, they have, for the last 2, 3 years, nearly forgotten the farmer for this side. And it's going to be a tougher call this time, because soybean prices are going to be pressurized, maybe 43, 4,400, maybe below, and 4,800 MSP. So the gap is also quite big. It's not a small gap. So we'll have to see. It's going to be interesting time to see how does the government handle this issue. The industry for sure will not procure a lot or buy a lot, because the supply is also very good, and they have limited demand on the local and the export. And there is no hedging mechanism as well.
Right. Now, see, I agree with you that, government Bhavantar scheme was, again, the brainchild of the Shivraj Singh Chauhan, who is now the agriculture minister. I think he should be propelled and looking in those directions. But at the same time, I don't see, there is any possibility of any upside, even maintaining the current price, right? Globally, soya is under severe pressure. And I believe that if it reaches, the 400 mark, right, for a consistently long time, the next, the base is 380. Right. In that scenario, there is no possibility of Indian trader picking a bet, and then you might end up seeing soya below 40. And soya below 40 is when you are having 13 million hectares of land being tilled, and assuming half a hectare is what actually the average farmer in Maharashtra and MP is having. We are talking about roughly 26 million farmers being impacted. Do you see that itself would force government to and again, I understand this import and oil, it's too indirect, it is not going to be changing the price scenario so fast. Even if the duties are put on the oil, people are not going to switching to soybean oil in a rush, and that doesn't happen generally.
Yeah, so I think, see, it will not have a complete direct correlation, because in soybeans it is 18% oil content only. It's not a very high oil content. So the oil share is not that great. It's limited to about 35 to 45%. So whatever maximum oil share can give the value to soybeans, that will happen. And there are elections in Maharashtra, and Maharashtra has a decent amount of soybean crop, which is the second largest state for soybean production. And as a state itself, soybean is a big crop for the state. So it's going to be difficult for the government, as I said. And we've not seen NAFED buying too much, or maybe in Maharashtra, the government takes a call and they kind of buy it in NAFED. Because what happens is in mustard or in chana, you have to sell to small millers, and they are all scattered. And so all locations you can buy and do that. In soybeans, there are solvent plants which are, I would say, larger in size and fewer in numbers. So generally, government do not procure such products, plus which does not have a direct supply to the end consumer also. So I think it's going to be interesting time to see how the government comes and supports it. But I feel even after whatever support they do, there is not going to be much help to the soybeans unless and until a very aggressive procurement of soybean is done by the NAFED itself. Rest all indirect measures would not have a much impact on the prices.
One more, point of view, I want to, pick your brain on that. Is it possible that actually government incentivize the export of soya meal by giving some, the direct incentive to the millers? Do you think that could have some impact on taking prices?
Yeah, so basically, in the earlier days, this used to help a lot because, as I said, oil share is on less and the oil percentage is less. It's 82% meal and about 55 to 65% of share from the meal. So broadly, any incentive on meal may help, but we'll have to see how much of the export market we have, because when we are competing as a non-GMO to a GMO origin like Argentina, and when they export in Panamaxes and their logistic cost and their production cost, they are definitely going to be more aggressive than us. So that again can help, but to a limited extent. And broadly, we are not even very aligned to be very huge on export side. We don't have a lot of logistics set for the export side. In the earlier years, 4-5 years back, I still remember the maximum India could export out in a month was 5-6 lakh tons. So those kind of bottlenecks also come in. So I think, that all these things are a little increase in duty or maybe incentive could do some here and there support, but the final support can only come in a proper way. If you want to maintain the MSP, then it has to be a procurement at MSP or a clear bhavantar.
Right. Now coming to the elephant in the room, what we have discussed, we have found that the policy measures, like on the pricing or the trade side, are not going to help too much. Now, looking at a long-term view, do you think that actually, we have short-charged our farmer by not allowing GMO? Because first of all, their productivities are so low, then they have to compete in this market, then the prices are actually, when they crash, there is no mechanism for risk mitigation for them. So wouldn't it be better that actually if we allow, we allow import of edible oil, which could be made after GMO seed, but we are not allowing our farmer to increase their productivity using GMO. So is it the time that this debate should come in open? Otherwise, maybe 3 years or 4 years down the line, we'll lose all the soybean productivity in India or production in India.
Yeah, so I think this debate should definitely be there, and we should try and understand what all things can be done, because eventually the help to the farmer is going to be helping them increase their productivity. Price is I would say, a short-term measure that you give them a hike in MSP or you procure, but eventually you have to make them more efficient. You have to make them competitive on the world scale, and for that, our yields are very low. Today, a US would have a 3.5, 3.6 ton of per hectare yield, and we hardly have a ton of yield. So we are 3.5 times lower than them. So we have to increase the yield. We have to find out all the measures we can do. And in all the measures, if we have exhausted all and GMO is the last, then we should even think and deliberate on the GMO.
No, that is what actually I wanted to put across to the people, that when US this year is doing 3.62 metric ton per hectare, right? We are at less than a ton, and this is where you cannot compete, for example, a bicycle cannot compete a Ferrari car. So this is what we have put our farmer into, and this is the time actually everybody needs to understand that we have to move away from this mindset of restricting the innovations. And I think Bharat Bhai was there, but somehow there he's dropped off. So, sir, again coming to you only, Nirav Bhai, before Bharat Bhai joins in, I would also like to understand, from you, that which are the key demand markets where you see that actually, like, the demand for soybean or soya oil can pick up across the globe? Which are the other countries which can be developed for the type of product we are having, non-GMOs?
So I think for non-GMO, you have all these Western nations which are very conscious on sustainability, conscious on non-GMO, organic, because they feel they need healthy alternatives for whatever they are consuming, and they are ready to pay a little higher for that also. So we have to have some kind of consistent marketing effort. Maybe if we brand the Indian non-GMO also well, because we see Canada has a canola, which is a rapeseed eventually, but it's canola. So then as an end consumer, also a lot of people I meet, they say, I have canola oil, I consume canola oil. They don't say I consume rapeseed oil. So all these kind of branding activities, if we kind of do a little bit, and we focus on these kind of markets, maybe Japan, Korea, US, that is how we can try and find out. And in countries which are again no I would say developing but good, maybe in India in itself, and in China itself, if we try and do, these are larger economies which have a premium set of customers also, and I would say even masses also. So for the premium segment, they can kind of pitch in the benefits of non-GMO, and then we can try and get some new markets there. Rest, in a very poor country, I think it will not appeal much, because for them it will be prices. So we have to focus in places where the consumer can pay a slight premium for the non-GMO.
And as you rightly very recently mentioned that, like, it would be difficult for India to import non-GMO from Africa. How do you see the crops coming out? You were in Africa recently. So do you have any inputs on that? Like, how do you see, like, Eastern African countries specifically, like, coming out with that? Because we saw there was an issue with Malawi, where the government literally banned actually export of soybean, right? How do you see other countries coming up?
So I think the complete East African market this year has very low soybean production. And that is why when you and I were in Tanzania, we never saw much of soybean trades happening or talks happening, because Malawi, Zambia, all of them have this year kind of no major beans to export out. And on the contrary, they're going to be sufficing with importing beans from the nearby countries and meal from South America. So yes, that is also going to be there. We're hearing a little bit of a slight hint from West Africa that the production might be slightly lower, especially in Togo and Benin. So we'll have to see how does that go. So we have to even understand that these are new markets that are developing, but on the other hand, these are very small base in numbers. And if there is a production, slight reduction in production or decline in production, then they are not going to be much there to export out, because the regional consumption also are good and developing.
Like and very recently we have seen, like, some of the challenges when it comes to, like, government maintaining the price. They have been lucky so far that actually at least edible oil has been pretty low. On the oil side, do you see that, like, any challenges going forward? And I'm talking about complete vegetable basket, not just restricted to soybean. Do you think that there could be possibility of because the groundnut is only one which is actually lower than the last year, and rest is all above, like, last year prices.
So I feel edible oil is very well supplied. There is no major production issue. There is a consistent production that is going to be visible or is enforceable future. We are seeing that there is going to be good supply, and India is also importing quite well. So we are also well stocked. Our supply chain is very well covered. So there is no major concern on that side. Yeah, maybe there is a little bit of weather issue in Russia and Ukraine. So sun oil might be on a slight premium. Last year, we saw sun oil was very competitive to an extent that it was even selling cheaper than soybean oil, trying to match with even palm oil. So that's not going to happen in the next crop year. Sun oil will be maintaining a slight premium, but palm and soya will, I think, continue supplying to the world a good amount of oil, as we are seeing. So I don't think there is any major threat from that side.
Perfect. So we are having Andrew Zirack actually, like, who would pitch in for Bharat Bhai. So Andrew is somewhere in beautiful farms of Africa. Thanks a lot, Andrew, for joining in. Like, and from your side, sir, what do you think? Like, the scenario is for soybean. You're scaring all of us. While we are not scared because we have too much of that, but how do you see, like, soybean supply coming from Africa?
Yeah, thank you so much, Deepak. So, as you noted before, yes, the two major supplying countries in Eastern Africa, Zambia and Malawi, put sort of a restriction, export restrictions. And I think Malawi is trying to develop its own processing industry of soya. I think there are so many companies, reportedly some of them from Tanzania, are going to establish processing in Malawi, and that allows us to export restrictions. Zambia also is trying to centralize export, so not every person just make it. If you continue to export soya, Tanzania is not a major player in the region. So our annual production is around 44,000 metric tons. Although that was stands to rapidly increase, given the fact that there is a very major efforts by the government and private sectors after they have seen that the market is becoming stabilized locally from India, from China as well. And I think that, of course, will boost. Speaking about the region, African region, the processes are very positive. Our current production is African continent is around 6 million metric tons per year, and the rate of growth production increase in Africa is the highest in the world. Average production increase in the world is around 4.6%, but of course for African continent is 6.8%. The highest, and of course that is largely contributed by the fact that Africa has got huge chunk of land. As you know, that we have about more than 50% of land in Africa that is quite arable, that is virgin, not yet cultivated, and now we're trying to make sure that we're making good use of the available land. So if you look at the statistics, you will see that the increase that I spoke before, that is 6.8% per annum, is largely on the sub-Saharan Africa, is largely contributed by the increase, expansion of area of cultivation. Slightly, of course, different from another soya production producer in the Northern Africa, that is Egypt, who has got a very intense investment in irrigation. That, of course, has really its increase largely contributed by the increased yield. So the processes are very positive in terms of production. But of course, political interference is something that you can hardly predict. I'm very much waiting to see if next year, I mean, Zambia and Malawi will have more or less similar position. But what I'm seeing is that it might be forced by the external factors, because I'm seeing that China is going to up its own import from Africa, and Tanzania, of course, also going to make a very good contribution to that, because, as you know, Tanzania has got a memorandum of understanding on export of soya to China, and our production is not that much huge, and they'll be using Malawi and Zambia soya for export. And as you know, last year we had an export of 1,000 metric tons. So you can see if we produce and as for 100 metric tons, a contribution from these neighboring countries high. So, frankly speaking, I mean, next time we are looking at scenario now in Africa.
Right. So, as like we have seen in pulses, do you see even eventually the Tanzanian government also taking soybean also to the exchange? Do you think that is a possibility?
Yeah, it has been doing that for quite some time. Of course, the only difference there traded in an auction, but not TM truck for marketing. But I mean, there has been auction, and mostly, of course, there's not that it is sold through auction. Of course, there are some other groups that have been used, but of more quantities. Of course, we are trying to advise for the fuel sector, that is not which is a nascent sector, a growing sector, emphasis not be regulating on how to ensure that we cut some roots on individual farmers put to where they feed the market to them, and put much more effort in making sure that we increase local production, be it through action of cultivation or be it this of course be.
And
But of course,
actually we are not able to hear much from what you're saying. I think there is an internet issue, right? And unfortunately, like the voice is breaking. Can you just try once again? My apologies, or you can switch off the video and try. That would be better, at least for listening, because it's an important question.
All right, try to talk to me. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Better. Can you respond to that question? That would be fine. That would be great.
So come again, please. I must have lost something.
Yeah. So no, actually, So the question was that actually, like, do you think that, like, government also including the remaining commodities in the auction system? Because like, jokingly, your agriculture minister has said that actually those who don't want to buy from the exchange should be driving a tuk-tuk and making money there. So do you think in the soybean and the other commodity also this is going to happen?
Has been happening before. Soybean has been traded through auction, but the trend seems to be a little bit disheartening. If you see this year, the government has issued a note that all crops, of course, major crops from pulses, pigeon pea, chickpeas, beans, soybeans, and all that, they should be traded through auction system. But the response from farmers is very negative. Now, for instance, it's very when crops are traded freely, you can see that per day you are speaking about thousands of metric tons of crops will be traded from upcountry to Dar es Salaam ready for exports. But looking at the current trend, you can see, for instance, just a day before yesterday, one region, this north region, Tuanyara, pigeon pea, not more than 100 metric tons of it were sold per day. That tells a lot about what farmers see. They've decided to withhold the crops available so that they can just choose the profitable path. Of course, so often than not, what is being reported as increased price through auction is not so much going directly to the farmer, so much has been taken by the available institutions, cooperative and all that. So the response from farmers is a little bit warm, mild, and I'm not seeing that the current move by the government will be sustained. It will be changed in the near future, some few weeks to come, and probably from next year, we are looking forward to have a different position from what we have this time around.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Thank you for, like, your excellent intervention. We are having actually two more gentlemen who have a deep insight in soybean. If like, they would like to comment on that. Alok bhai or JAYESH bhai, if you want to have a comment, we are another 5 minutes for this chat. So would be more than happy to listen to your views if possible, sir. Namaste, Alok ji.
हाँ नमस्ते दीपक भाई कैसे हैं?
All good,
Okay.
sir. Struggling with Africa's internet connection. My two speakers,
Yes.
they were not.
Yeah, internet is always bad there. Okay.
No,
I think
but
I
guy,
will
Africa is
comment.
good. Africa is good, right? Internet or no internet, please trade with Africa. नहीं तो मेरे को लोग
Yeah.
बोलेंगे कि like you are showing the negative part of Africa. Thank you, Jayesh bhai.
No,
Good
no,
to see you,
no.
sir, smiling.
Our internet is such whatever we want to listen and say, we will tell. Otherwise, we can just tell internet is not working. Okay, I will just comment
Alok bhai,
something.
recently it happened, right? One of the
Uh,
bureaucrat didn't wanted to answer a question. He started showing the net not working. So this is also a good way of, if you don't want to comment, you can say internet not working. Chaliye sir, all to you.
Okay. Okay, I will just comment on West Africa because East Africa you have already listened from Andrew. West Africa, in Nigeria and Benin, Togo, all three countries, the season is going to start in another 2 months, at least in October and November. And so far as the crops are concerned, there is nothing wrong in the crop. And what I know is Nigeria is having the almost same crop, but as you know, Nigeria have industry base as well as in soya. Soya export started only when the prices in India went above $550. Below that it was never exported out of Africa. I'm just talking about 5 years back. It is only recent time when soya has started exporting out of Africa because of the price, not because of the demand. Because the prices went up, then suddenly the export prices are more. It was better than the local prices, then suddenly farmers started selling to the traders and we started exporting out of Africa. Now, if this happens, that if this year, if India is seeing a price level of 500, and I believe Pakistan is right now is paying 600 something. But if Pakistan also comes down, then you will see, there will be a fight in exporting soya out of these countries. And in Togo, there are so many industries which has come in the last 2 years. When India started, they stopped exporting organic soya, everyone shifted to Togo. So this will be the another thing which will impact the export of soybeans out of Africa. I think Jayesh bhai, you will comment something?
Yes, Jayesh bhai, please.
Sorry. Yeah, I think just to add a couple of things on in general pattern of consumption on soybean. I think the soybean in Africa, we actually not use only for the meal point of view, but we have a significant consumption on edible point of view. So as Alok ji said that we are not the traditional exporter of soybeans, I think. It is when we saw the prices of 800 and 900, that's where that we actually got encouraged to export out of Africa. Otherwise, we do have a sufficient crushing facility. In fact, we have more than sufficient crushing facility. In especially in the Zambia and Malawi. On Tanzania point of view, Tanzania is not a traditional producer of soybean. We could say, just a lot of cross-border trade which is happening between the Zambia and Tanzania, Malawi and Tanzania. And that's why you see the export is actually an exit point for the soybean for the landlocked country like Malawi and Zambia. But Tanzania do not have a much production. I would say that maybe 10, 15,000 tons, but not as significant. Someone would say 30, 40,000 tons. But in general, as I've lived all along our life in Tanzania, we don't have a proper, any eating habit of soybean or the consumption of soybean in Tanzania, so apart from the meal that what we depends largely from the Malawi and Zambia. So that's a little bit about the soybean in Africa. So I think the rest of the point Alok ji has already covered on that.
It's a very, very interesting point, Jayesh bhai. Just another question to you, sir. So in case there are so much of facilities available, but end of the day, meal and the oil, that is what actually is one of the outcome. So do you think that the consumptions would be also so strong for all these the derivative products, so that they are not looking for even export of the derivative products?
I don't think so. See, we have as I said to you, I would say about 30% of the soybean production goes for the edible form. And it's about 70% is about the for the crushing and the meal point of view. And current numbers on the Malawi, I would say about 450,000 tons. In the best case scenario, worst case is about 300. Last year we had a drought in Malawi and in Zambia both, and that's why that we did not have enough beans to export. And plus the price was also not very encouraging, the thing. And the domestic price were like almost the $100-$150 more than probably what the export parity was there. So the bulk of the soybean actually, whatever was there, it was only for the local consumption. As I think the Nirav Bhai also, I think, has covered that the soybean, lot of soybean is coming to the Africa is because of we had a short supply of the beans in Africa. So basically the Kenya, Tanzania, Malawi, Mozambique, all of them that we do not have a sufficient meal. So that's why perhaps that India might see a possibility until the new crop, which is the next year in the March, till such time that India would have at least some, not that we are not a big buyer like the Iran or the Pakistan, but at least you could have some sizable export out of India to this part of the world.
No, that's right. Actually, in fact, somebody was telling me in the trade that actually there has been a ship which is being getting ready to be dispatched, of soybean getting ready to be dispatched to Africa. So there could be a possibility, maybe could be a need, but I was not able to get the exact confirmed information. But as you rightly pointed out, that there is a possibility for meal they might look at India.
Quite a lot of containers have arrived, actually, to be honest. Now the people are trying to, since the demand is, now people do have a confidence that the, Africa would require the meal. And that's the reason that people are exploring the possibility of exporting the soya meal into in a bulk ship. But the containers have already arrived from India.
Perfect. Anuj, you would like to add something?
Yeah, East Africa. No, East Africa has imported soya meal for last 3 years. Little bit, not too much. And this year, because of the shortage, as JAYESH Bhai told, because Zambia and Malawi both, they are in short of crops. So that is the reason why soya meal could be one of the, attraction to this East Africa. West Africa, obviously, they will not import any soya meal. They will export soya meal as long as their the export prices are more than the domestic prices. That's very clear to them. If the prices, they just compare the prices. If it is more than what they are getting there, then definitely they will try to export. If not, then they will try to consume it there, especially in Nigeria we are talking about. And Benin, because of China, because China allows Benin and Tanzania, and Malawi they have started, but I think none of the shipment has gone right now. So Benin, even if they do, the China will be the first one to take that non-GMO cargo.
Right. And China has been taking a lot of cargo from all across the world, and I'm surprised what they're doing with so much of soya. Their stock, they are increasing every year by a couple of million tons, right? Last year, as I said, 39, then 42.4, and 45.8 this year. So they're also stockpiling. I don't know actually where they are using so much of stock of soya, but that's good for trade. At least somebody is buying. With that, we would like to conclude this interesting session on soya. And my apologies to my audience that African internet was having a little bit of choppiness. That is also the way the trade in Africa generally is. But looking forward to have a better internet as well as less choppy business and internet both. So now we go to our next panel discussion. This is a very interesting panel discussion. We will be talking about palm. And we all know that actually, at the center of all the discussion is palm, both RBD as well as CPO, because India has been the central player in importing palm. We have been importing palm along with China, and sometimes we see that these two countries competing in each other when it comes to palm. Now, going with the very simple numbers, 22-23, we imported close to 9.7 million metric ton of palm oil, and before that it was 7.8. Now, looking at estimate for 23-24 with what the current price trends are, looks like we should be between 8.5 to 9 million metric ton when we end the season by November. If you see that the past 2 years, the RBD has increased by 3 times. So predominantly we were more on CPO, but now actually we are also seeing the RBD also increasing substantially. Again, palm makes a very big chunk of overall import India does of edible oil. So if you see that 22-23, it was 16.46 million metric ton of edible oil we imported, and out of that 9.7 million metric ton was palm oil. Predominantly, we depend extensively on Indonesia, to certain extent Malaysia, and then rest of the other economies. Now, coming to another very important vital point, that Indonesia itself has been actually, if you see that in past 10 years, has increased their production from roughly 160 million metric tons of oil palm to to 200 million metric tons. And this is also when we talk about the palm oil also, when the global demand is 80 to 85, close to 80% of that is coming from Indonesia and Malaysia, Indonesia always being the bigger brother. Also, what is interesting to notice is that India has been trying to cultivate or create our own palm industry or own palm cultivation with various schemes, including the National Mission of Edible Oil, oil palm, and unfortunately, the results have not been that exciting because we have touched just 0.3 million metric ton last year of production, which still is minuscule. But we all need to understand that palm is a little bit patient crop. You have to put it, then after 3 years you start getting food, and then after 7 years you have a really decent harvest. So I am having excellent panelists with me, Mr. Sandeep Bhan, who's from Singapore. He's one of the, I say that the legend of the industry. It's always a pleasure to listen to you, sir. In so many conference, I make it a point. I was not a good student of oil sector. I am more of a pulses and grains guy. But actually, after listening to you, this infection is there, and now I am also tracking oil sector just because of the speakers and the mentors like you. Thanks a lot for joining, sir. Then we are having Mr. Nasim. He has been a strong person who have been involved extensively in the plantation of oil palm in India. We'll also get some insight from him what's happening when we are trying to become close to self-sufficient. I wouldn't say that self-sufficient is the right word. It's too early for us to comment on that on oil palm. And similarly, Mr. Anupam Barik also has been illustrious career in understanding the palm as a crop, and actually played a various role in different organizations, including the government, to understand and see to it that how India can be self-reliant to a certain extent in palm. Over to you, sir, Mr. Sandeep Bhan, sir. Overall picture of the world, how do you see the world evolving?
First, Deepak, thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak on this forum. So I give you a bit of a background on the Indonesia side. Indonesia was a country where production of CPO was growing all these years. So it was a couple of years back, say at least a decade back, it was close to 25 to 30 million tons. But on an average, we used to have 2 to 3 million ton growth every year, which plateaued in 2 years back, which is now close to 48 to 48.5 million tons. At this point of time, there's no further growth coming from Indonesia. While as Malaysia suffered a lot because of this COVID. We had a lot of labor issues, and because of that, the production stagnated here. We were going close to 18 to 18.5 million tons. But this year, we are seeing growth back in Malaysia, which we are expecting with this full year might be close to 19.3 to 19.4 million tons, as against 18.5 last year. Indonesia, 48.5, we are taking in general as last year's crop, and this year we are expecting close to a million ton drop. So what happened in Indonesia was a big change in the structural change in Indonesia, which will answer to your query why India is importing now a lot of olein also. Previously, it was all CPO coming from Indonesia, coming from Malaysia. But now Indonesia has its own downstream industry, which is flourishing. We have a refining capacity of close to 80 to 90 million tons in Indonesia. And against this, we have a production of 48.5 million tons of CPO. From 48.5 million tons of CPO, we have, as of today, 13.5 million tons, which is expected to go to next year to 15 million tons into biodiesel. So out of 48.5 million tons, we take 15 million out, we are left with 33.5 million tons. Out of 33.5 million tons, we have 6 to 7 million tons of CPO for exports. We are left with 27 million tons. This 27 million tons has to feed a refining capacity of 90 million tons. So structurally, that's a big change. Indonesia, from a CPO exporter, is now refined products exporter. So obviously, India is a growing country. It's the world's biggest importer now. They need to close to 1 million tons of oil every month. But what they were getting from Indonesia as CPO had switched to olein. And Malaysia is not in a position to increase its exports of CPO because we produce only 18.5, say this year, 19 million tons, but we have our own refining capacities. So we are today exporting close to 3 to 3.5 million tons of CPO, which is unlikely going to increase from that because otherwise that increase is at the cost of our own local refining capacities. So overall, now it's a now the balance has to be between Olein and CPO, and that India is the best to decide what is in their favor. If we say, okay, million tons of entire CPO has to come, unlikely. Choices are very limited because Indonesian output is not there. Malaysia cannot supply. So now we are going to off ports like Thailand, Philippines, Papua New Guinea, and at times even from Africa, but small volumes. But that's not going to change now. This is a change which has happened and which will continue to grow. How much percentage of Olein, whether it is 30% or 40%, my personal calculation is we will have to switch to at least 30 to 40% Olein year on year. That is the broader picture of.
No, that's a very right. No, that's very interesting. Like, luckily I had opportunity of visiting Indonesia multiple times, and I've been to all the big islands from Kalimantan to Sumatra. I've been to on these plantations, and even 3 or 4 years back, it was they wanted to be more value addition and ensure that actually there is a more money to be made. It should not be be fooded, and then actually also the traceability part of it. They have invested in traceability, so they thought why not to give a little bit closer to the final product rather than something which is an intermediary. Again, your views on that that activity related to traceability? Do you think that the debate is now over, where actually Indonesia was always called out for not being sustainable, from orangutan to the tropical forest? Lot of discussions.
No, those days are gone now. We have no more. All three countries, whether it is Malaysia or Indonesia, traceability is now a given. Sustainability is in the DNA of the plantation companies. They are like Malaysia has Malaysia's sustainable palm oil practices. Indonesia has its ISPO mandatory. So sustainability has now become a part of your production process, which by default is traceability included.
Right. Now, sir, coming to something which you would be very keen to discuss about is the price points. Right. Now, we have seen that the $450 levels, right, way back in 2020, mid 2020. In fact, one of the group discussions, you asked me that if we are able to get cheap palm oil, let me know, I'll buy it from that place. So then actually in April 2022, it gone to the level of reaching $1,500 mark. Now currently we are close to 820 to 825, which also April was 1,000 plus. Now, do you see that these type of volatility would also be taken care of going forward, or do you think this is a part and parcel of palm industry? Because sometimes it is at parity with sunflower and soybean, and suddenly you find today it is having $100 of discount over these oils. So that confuses a country like India what to import.
So that was also one of the big shifts in the prices this year. In the first quarter of this year, we saw palm getting to the most expensive oil. In fact, higher than the sunflower oil and soybean oil. And that lasted for quite first quarter of the year. And that gave an indication to the markets that palm is coming out of that, all the scenarios of being a cheap oil, cheap man's oil. Those all things have gone. They are now things of a past. First quarter fully sustaining, palm oil prices higher among all the oils, sustained, and that gave an indication to the markets. We are now back in today's scenario, back to the same situation when palm oil and soybean oil are going back to the same prices. Just 2 weeks, 3 weeks back, palm was $100 cheaper than soya, but palm recovered very fast and it's now trading virtually at par. Marginal difference plus minus $5-10 here and there. So we are back to that situation now. And in this situation also, India needs oil. And the advantage of palm from Indian perspective is the availability and reaching India within 15 days. If they buy today soybean oil, August shipment, it arrives in November. So you have to fill the gap. And the gap can be filled only by palm. Right. So that makes India now okay. And then India has a core demand of at least 6 million tons to where the oil cannot be switched with any other oil. So it needs that. That is close to virtually 500,000 tons every month. So this part of the world has an assured market of 500,000 tons. But then that 500,000 tons is growing. It's now virtually becoming 1 million tons.
Right. No, but this is the problem is the volatility, sir, because the government of India and even the trade here, they are not scared with the high prices, frankly. They're scared with the volatility because the type of ups and downs. We have seen that happening in pulses so much that actually a lot of people have lost interest in dealing with pulses. Right. That's why you don't find big corporates being there. But now that is also happening. We have seen past 2 years in this sector also, where the ups and downs are so much, then it's very difficult to take a call. And how do you mitigate the risk? Hedging becomes costly.
No, hedging is a must. You need to have a hedging. In fact, actually, last year, in second half of the 2023, we had a range-bound trade, which was 3,800 to 4,000. And beauty of that was that it was a very smart buying from India, that when the market went lower than 3,900, around 3,850, they would buy. And then market would immediately fast recover back to 4,000. They will not join. But at 4,000 plus, we would see a good sell. So it traded most of the 6 months last year in the range of 38 to 4,000. In current context, in today's market, we were all drawn. It was continuing 38, 4,000, but after this equity sell-off and very sharp rise in the Malaysian ringgit against the US dollar, the prices came a bit down. But we are still in the nearby months, August, September, trading in the range of 38 to 3,900. So volatility has gone down a lot compared to previous years when it used to be. It can be 300, 400, 500 ringgit jumping in a very fast few months, but this time it has been a very range-bound, very narrow range of 200 ringgits. But that kept apart, India needs hedging mechanism. The volatility can be only controlled with the hedging available. Otherwise, you can't leave the entire India with a huge imports, 10 million tons of oil imports, having no facility of hedging. And this part of the world is not only India. We have exports to the global markets, and we have funds, we have hedge funds coming into this market. We have commodity players, we have everybody in this market. So volatility is very difficult to control, driven by market forces, and nobody knows which market force can take it to which way, depending on whatever fundamentals the market trades at.
Right. Perfect. Now I would like to go to Dr. Anupam Barik, sir. Sir, you have been one of the champions of trying to reduce business for Mr. Sandeep, right, by growing more palm oil in India. Sir, your experiences, and where do you see the challenge? Because I believe what the government has expected, or as a country we have expected to come up, that those things have not happened in those level, and still we are only a fringe player. When we see import of close to 9 million metric ton, our own production to be 0.3 or 0.315, right? That's very minuscule. So your views actually, how do we reduce the money Sandeep bhai is making? Just joking, Sandeep bhai. God bless you. Make as much as possible. Make more money. No problem. to you, Anupji. Sir, you're on mute. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. It is very true that India is deficit in the edible oil sector, and government of India is promoting oil palm from since 1991, since long, and we could have achieved only 4.50 lakh hectare by this as on date. But coming to the new mission, that is the National Mission of Edible Oil and Oil Palm, which was been launched in 2021, has a target of 6.5 lakh hectare, and as on date, within these 3 years, 1.25 lakh hectare has already been planted within 3 months out of the target of 6.5. The scheme earlier, there are so many schemes implemented by the government of India, but this scheme has a unique feature of the declaring of the viability price, that is the minimum guarantee price for the FFBs to be paid by the government of India, to be paid by the processors in the respective stage. That is, this year it has been declared as 13,652 rupees per metric ton. That is the 13 rupees per kg of FFBs. This is an assurance has been given under this mission. And see that before NMEO-OP, only 8 companies was associated in the oil palm business. Now it is the 28 companies. This is a big momentum that more companies has come forward to promote oil palm in these sectors and to achieve this 6.5 lakhs. And coming to that earlier hardly 10,000 to 12,000 hectare per year could have been achieved through various schemes. But now it is around, during the last 3 years, 40,000 hectare per year. But in 2024, it is expected that around 1 lakh hectare will be covered within these 24-25, because the huge amount of sprout has been imported already. Around 5 million sprouts has already been imported. And with these sprouts, we can plant it around 2.75 lakh hectares already imported, and we are expecting that seedlings are sufficiently available with all the processors, and 1 lakh hectare by 24-25 plantation can be done. Similarly, you can see that before NMOP, hardly 22 seed nurseries was there by the 8 companies. But now it is the 124 nurseries has been developed under this mission. Everywhere, every state has been, 15 states are being promoted oil palm, and every state has seed nurseries, planting material availability, and this has also been happened that we had 20 processing mills before NMEOP, but now the 12 new mills are likely to become. All setup has been taken. Government have already sanctioned the setting up of the mill. 1 mill, new mill in Arunachal Pradesh by 3A have already been started. 1 mill by Patanjali in Arunachal Pradesh will be started by September or October. And last week, 1 mill has, Godrej has announced for 1 mill in Tripura. Assam, 4 mills are likely to become by various companies. So 12 new mills we are expecting by 25, 26, 12 new mills. So total 32 mills will be coming, and around 155 metric ton capacity will be generated. So that is true that whatever it is essential that in the Northeast, negative campaign on oil palm is also going, which is hindering the expansion of the area and the momentum which has been takes place. But this year, Government of India has taken the mega plantation drive during last year as well as during this year also. From 15th July to end of the September, during these 60 to 70 days, more than 50,000 hectares will be planted. And all processors, all states are geared up in that direction, so that the mega plantation drive and anti-palm campaign can be tackled systematically, and more farmers can be motivated. So like this, it is true that NMEOP scheme, an ambitious scheme of the Government of India. It has a significant, it have to be a significant contribution in the edible oil availability in our country. It is expected that by 25-26, the palm oil contribution in the country will be the 5%, and by 29-30, the contribution will be the 12% of the total domestic availability.
Right, sir. So are we saying that we would be able to touch a million metric ton mark in the next couple of years?
That is, yes. By 25-26, now it is the 4.25 lakh tons we are producing as on date. 4.25 lakhs of CPU. Domestically, we are producing, and it can go if this planning is executed. But in my opinion, 6.5 lakh hectares within 25-25 may not be achieved. It can take another 2 years. By 27-28, 6.5 lakh hectare can be achieved easily.
Right. And sir, based on your experience, how different has been the productivity when compared to Indonesia or Malaysia? Because they are natural, agroclimatical zone for palm.
Yes. The productivity level, it is true that productivity level is low as compared to Indonesia, Malaysia. But in Andhra Pradesh, in Telangana, in Karnataka, where the crop is well established and farmers are very well known, they are harvesting more, around at par with the Indonesian and Malaysian. But our yield parameters in Northeast states, especially in the Mizoram, it is somehow low, and in Odisha, Chhattisgarh, the small states, there our productivity is low, around 12 tons per hectare.
Sir, but wasn't that logical? Because I had some discussions on oil palm with some of the bureaucrats some time back, when the old mission was there and new mission was created to a mission to galvanize the old mission.
Yes.
That's a, so this actually if you go the basic definition of oil palm, it's a tropical fruit, right? That has been written and it was very obvious that southern part of India would be obviously giving more productivity, right? Because of agroclimatical zone it is in, rather than Northeast. This whole infatuation of taking it to all the way Northeast just because it is closer to Southeast Asia. Don't you think that was not very smart thing to do? We could have invested that amount of money and effort right? Because in the Northeast, I've traveled and I've seen that farmer after 2 years, if then they are not able to get the productivity, they'll remove the oil palm farm and then they'll start doing something else. So that has
No.
also happened in Northeast.
Yes. You are true that the palm oil was introduced in Mizoram, in Northeast in Mizoram in 2005 in first phase. And after that, the setback in the Northeast region, palm oil is that properly oil palm mills was not set up by the various companies. Only Godrej Agrovet was set up the palm oil mill in Mizoram, Kolasik district. And thereafter, in Arunachal Pradesh, there are a lot of plantation, but mill was not established as committed by the various processors. Now one mill has been set up. So major constraints was the availability of the seedlings, and there is no processing center, and farmers harvesting the crop, processors are buying the crop, and it has not been processed properly. Even now, it is also happened in case of Assam also. Assam material is going to Mizoram, going to Andhra Pradesh. So like this, but now under the NMEO-OP, 12 new mills will come up. After on that, 8 mills will be set up in the Northeast states alone, as per the commitment by the processors and sanction of the government of India. So if the processing unit has been set up properly, the farmers will come forward definitely. So they will see that assured procurement and processing is there in their state.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Dr. Anupam Barik, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Because you are doing something of a national interest, and we need more palm oil coming from India.
Okay. Thank you.
Giving value to our own farmers. Now, I would like to go to Mr. Nasim Ali ji. Sir, you have been the pioneer, like, from the private sector, to be someone who has just, like, being on the ground, tried to create this whole thing. And Godrej Agrovet has been the leading player who started all this thing. Sir, your views, and how do you see, like, going forward, that India can produce sufficient palm oil at least to offset some of the import which we are doing?
Thank you having me here, for inviting me. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Thank you.
Right. Now, I have certain comments on this in continuation what Dr. Barik and Sandeep Bhan has said. So I will continue from there. I will say first thing, achieving the self-sufficiency in Indian edible oil condition, if you talk about, yes, it is possible. Though it's a distant dream, but it is possible. Self-sufficiency may take time, maybe decades, no doubt, but we have to move forward. And yellow revolution is the time, and that is possible through oil palm only. I must insist upon that word. It is possible through oil palm only. See, if I talk about crop diversification, value addition of the crop, and extensive cultivation of oil palm, but effectively, I would stress the word effectively. That area bringing is not only important. The most important part for us, bring the effective area under oil palm cultivation, so that you become self-sufficient in terms of the productivity at par with Malaysia, Indonesia, or other part of the oil palm world. That 20 tons of FFB production per hectare per year. What is happening today, if we see the demand and the supply gap, our total requirement is around 26 million tons in a year, the total requirement of all oils together, the edible oils. And we produce just over 10 million tons of domestic traditional oilseeds, as well as the 16 million tons that we import. Now, if you take the numbers out of 16 million tons, you will see that 9.1, 9.3 million tons, over 9 million tons is palm oil alone. So our import basket is around 56, 57%, close to 60%. And at the same time, if I say 16 million tons when we import, it is coming around 62% is the total import out of 26 tons, 26 million tons. So I will say that to achieve the self-sufficiency, we should not depend only on the domestic traditional oil seeds. We need to have some alternative as well. What is happening today? The 30 million hectares in our country is under domestic traditional oilseed crops with the average of 1.2 tons oilseed production per hectare. With the oil recovery of around 28%, we produce 10.0 or 10.03 million tons of the soft oils that we are producing out of the traditional oilseed crop, right? Now, what is the alternative then with us? The alternative is oil palm because it produces around 4 tons of oil per hectare per year. It means you require less land because it is not possible to compete with the traditional oilseeds alone to meet our demand. Already 30 million hectares area already brought under domestic traditional oilseeds. If I take a mid time to compare between the traditional oilseeds and the palm oil, I will just give some numbers, so statistical numbers. The oil yield per hectare in terms of the kg, the groundnut is 604, soya is 213 kilogram per hectare, mustard is 472, sunflower is 280. So when we compare with the palm oil yield per hectare, I will say that compared to groundnut, it is 6 times. Compared to soya, around 16 to 17 times. Compared to mustard, it is 7.5 times. Compared to sunflower, it is 12.9 times. So in short, what I can say that we can produce 16 times more palm oil per hectare than even soya. So the possibility of self-sufficiency, I will say, yes, it will take time. How long? It is a matter of million-dollar question indeed. If I see today that what is happening, what are the constraints that we are facing today in achieving this? The one is that production of the oil seeds per hectare is low, domestic production. So we need to improve the crop productivity. Second part is more important. We need to have crop diversification. And that is very, very important, value-added crop. We must think that value-added crop that we have to see. Now, if you see today, the land use pattern, as per the land use survey plan of 2022, I will say that total agricultural land as a percentage of the land in India is 61%, whereas in the world, it is 38%. Right? Now, 30 million hectares is under domestic traditional oil seeds. So you can't go on increasing the area under soft oil alone. We have to have some alternatives. So we have to see that for production of edible oils in India, as much as we consume through its traditional oil seeds, the country requires huge area and is not possible and is next to impossible. We can't increase the land size of the country, but we have to increase the productivity. And that is possible through oil palm, where you get 4 million tons. 4 tons per hectare is the production. Now, if I see that today, what is happening in India, that what is our total area?
Sir, you are on mute now. Somehow.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's on mute.
Yeah. So, am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if I see today's production is less than 500,000 tons in the country, 0.3, 0.35 million tons is the CPO production. Out of 3.5 lakh hectares existing today. And this 3.5 lakh hectare, according to my estimate, over next couple of years, we will be able to achieve 1.6 million tons of the production in next 4 to 5 years time, when all the plantations get stabilized and mature. As on today, all plantations, because of different age group is there. We should not forget that, number one. Number two, under the NMEOOP, what Barik was talking about, if we able to continue from the snail's pace to medium pace and from medium pace to fast pace over a decade's time, I believe that we will be able to bring 3 to 3.5 million hectares over decades time, at least in next 10 years. So if that happens, then you from the existing plantation, you are getting 1.6 million tons of CPO and 3.5 million hectare over next 8 to 10 years period. I expect we will be able to get another 5.5 million tons. Then what will happen? The grand total becomes around 7 million tons. 5 and 1.6, so 6.5 to 7 million tons. So that will help to bridge the gap. It cannot 100%, but we are going 9 million tons plus, but here we'll be able to bridge the gap to a great extent over decades time. That is what is my thinking and my take.
Excellent, sir. And actually, because our own demand will also increase, it will help a lot because, so we have a win-win situation. Sandeep bhai exporting at least 80% of what he's exporting to India now. And with our production, at least we won't go overboard. Over to you, Sandeep bhai from Sunwin Group, sir. Thanks a lot for being here. Sandeep bhai, Bajoria is, I think, on phone. So, okay. That's fine. So I think we would take a last word from you, Sandeep bhai. How do you see if India start moving towards self-sufficiency to the level in next 10 or 15 years, where sir, just a minute, Sandeep bhai, can you hear us? Bajoria sir? Sir, you are on mute. You have to unmute. सॉरी सर आपका वापस म्यूट हो गया है
Okay.
Perfect. 100% okay, sir. So, sir, we have been talking about India can produce in next a decade or so, another 7 million metric ton, and Sandeep bhai 8 million metric ton bhejenge. So, 15 million metric ton palm aa jayega. With that situation, in next 10 years, our demand coming up, sir. Your views and overall outlook of palm industry going forward, sir?
See, right now, first I must say hello to my dear brother Sandeep Bhan, then Nasim bhai, Anupam bhai, and Deepak and Niraj, and all the audiences. Namaskar. It's been a great discussion which is going on. I heard that. And what I just want to say is 26 million ton is our demand now, and 16 million ton import and 10 million ton local production. This demand is likely to grow up at least 1 million ton every year. So from 10 years from now, this 26 million ton demand will become 36 million ton. So again, if we increase our domestic production from 10 million ton to 15 million ton in next 10 years, Nasim bhai is saying that we can go up to 6.5 million ton in palm. Other oilseed also suppose we try and increase something. So hypothetically speaking, from 10 million ton, we go to 15 or 17 million tons, including oil palm, including additional rapeseed, including soybean, everything. Still, we will be importing 19 million tons of imported oil in 10 years from now. So whatever incremental demand India has, which is roughly about 1 million ton every year, 70-80% of that demand at the best can be met by local increase, domestic increase in production. Remaining we'll have to import. So as far as import is concerned, we'll always have to look at Sandeep Bhan to supply us from there in big vessels. He has a record of supplying in one palm vessel of more than 65-70,000 ton, which is still a record is there. So we'll have to depend, but at the same time, it's a great effort which is done by government and our Mr. Barik Saab and Nasim bhai, Patanjali, Godrej, everybody and all other plantation guys who step up the Indian production in a very big way. Otherwise, really we would be in a very bad shape, and we hardly we could increase our production. You see, 9 to 10 million ton domestic production is happening since many years. And earlier it was 8 million ton, we have reached now 10 million ton. That's all. So only 2 million ton we have increased over the last 10 years or 15 years. So with this kind of a great effort which is being made in oil palm, I think this is a significant booster to India's domestic production. Along with that, this announcement that we will step up in rapeseed, soybean, and other sunflower and other things. So this is needed. Means if you want to keep in a food item like vegetable oil, if your self-sufficiency level, if you want to maintain at least a 50% self-sufficiency, India cannot become self-sufficient in veg oil. That's ruled out. That's very clear because we have limited land, we have competing crops, we need all kind of crops, we need wheat, rice, sugar, pulses, everything. Pulses, again, we are short. So land is limited. So in that situation, growing oil palm is a very welcome step. So I just put it again, the balance sheet, 26 million ton is our demand now. This demand will become 36 million ton in next 10 years. Because economic growth and with the per capita income, GDP growth rising 7%, population growth also 1%. So we expect around 1 million ton will be demand. So demand from 26 million ton will become 36 million ton by 2035. Out of this 36 million ton, the domestic production at best could be 17 million ton, and we need to import 19 million tons in the year 2035. This is what ultimate equation looks like in the veg oil. Now, world is also at the same time. You see, we must see that Indonesia has got a very robust biodiesel program. Now they are from B35 to B40, and then new prime minister is talking even he's going to hold take a swearing in the next 1 month, and he's saying we can even go to B45, B50. So with these kind of great biodiesel programs in the origins, and in there, I was in Brazil last month. I took a delegation of 11 people. Last year, I took a delegation to Argentina. There also great amount of oil is going in biodiesel. So with all this kind of a situation, I believe world is not going to be flush with veg oil, and they are not going to that they will have great amount of surpluses. So India will have to also fight the food versus fuel battle. And it's important that we increase our local production. Otherwise, our dependence on import will go to crazy level. So with this, all this kind of situation, if we are able to maintain our dependence on import with 55, 60% and not increase, that will be an achievement by itself. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
So just last question before we wrap up this excellent panel. So Sandeep bhai from like Bajoria sahab, like, you know, because though Sandeep bhai hai, so I'll take a liberty of using the last name Bajoria bhai, right? Sir, ye government ka jo challenge hai is about inflation, right? When I was seeing that except groundnut oil, everybody, like, you know, in veg oil sector, it looks like it is trimming up for upside. They are bubbling. अभी इसमें पानी के छींटे बाहर डाल के दूध का उफान को रोक सकते हो, लेकिन टू अ सर्टेन एक्सटेंट वापस उफानता है. Do you see that also coming out as a challenge in festive season where a couple of these like, you know, veg oil can straight away create some challenge for the government?
No. We have actually, if you see 10-year data or 20-year data, there is a deflation in veg oil. And government is just keeping low duties just to see that using veg oil as a leverage against other items going up. And that's what they're thinking is going. They also understand, they also agree that there's no inflation in veg oil. And what prices we are seeing today, like below like 100 rupee kg of veg oil was like 10 years, 15 years back also it was the same price. So where is inflation? But they're using veg oil as a tool to see that other items of the food items which are going up so that overall inflation level remains adjusted. But actually now they are also talking about readjusting the consumer price index, and I believe that is most welcome check because the food weightage is about 45, 46%, and that is getting too high weightage right now. Food habits have changed. And then if you are thinking only inflation from the point of view of these things, that becomes a problem overall because then you are forced to keep the food items lower, then you're forced to not to give incentive to farmers to grow more. Then we are forced to import continuously. You're getting into a vicious circle, which is not a welcome thing for a country like India, population of 1.42 billion, 1.44 billion. And so we have to have a pragmatic, holistic solution. So we find a right balance between farmer, consumer, government, and the processors. One side you increase MSP, other side you want to depress the prices, and you want to crush all the processors in between, whether it is a solvent extractor of rice bran or cotton seed or soya bean, or whether it is a cotton yarn producer, spinning mills. Everybody is getting squeezed out. Last 1 or 2 years, everybody is losing money like anything. So this is a great mismatch between the whole thing. Government has to, I think, make a holistic way like looking at this and allow every industry to survive. Because if industry is not there tomorrow again, who is going to crush the seed, whatever you're going to produce extra? Or who is going to use that palm oil and refine it? So I think government will have to take a pragmatic view in a little longer range, and they'll have to rebalance the whole structure of their priorities and then accordingly move. Without which we are getting into a kind of a situation whereby if you look back, you will be blaming yourself and nobody else. So, but however, at the moment, government is overtly focused on inflation. And but recent data has been quite nice. I think 3.5%. So that shows means in fact you really see in India, and if you see look at the wholesale prices, they are very reasonable. Yeah, to some retail prices, to some extent, the markup and everything is the issue sometimes. But otherwise, the wholesale prices are very reasonable. Thank you.
Perfect, sir. Perfect, sir. So now, sir, you stay back because you are also in the part of the next session. And I would thank my other panelists. Thanks a lot, Sandeep Bhanji, Nasim Aliji, and Dr. Anupam Barik ji. Thanks, a real pleasure. And total, I said the last message, rightly, adeptly shared by Bajoria ji, is that don't crush the crushers. Thanks a lot. It was indeed a great session. Now I would invite Alok ji and JAYESH bhai, right, all the way from UAE to join our session. It's again going to be a very interesting session where we'll be talking about sesame, sunflower, and to a certain extent, like, the mustard, because I don't want to be the Indian flavor. जो तड़का mustard oil का लगता है, वो बाकी किसी का नहीं लगता है. So starting with you, Alok ji, like, your views on, sir, sesame, like, that's a very interesting crop, because while India has been, like, not, I'll say that growing it in numbers, when we talk about other crops, right, we are talking about multi-million tons whenever India talks. Here we are talking about a crop which is pretty short crop, but still we are the largest in the world, and at the same time also one of the largest exports in the world. So with a crop size of, like, this year it was something around 0.75 million metric ton, down by roughly 50,000 metric ton, and export of close to, right, here and there, 3. Say, like, this is a very interesting crop. And sir, you have been in Africa, you understand, like, the nuances of sesame. In fact, we are having 2 stalwarts, right, who on the sesame trade, Alok ji and JAYESH bhai, right. In fact, they have created the whole Africa industry, right, around sesame. So starting with you, Alok ji, then going to JAYESH bhai.
No, India, of course, play a major role in sesame seed trade, because traditionally they have been, everything from oil to the direct consumption in the form of bravery, and everything is sesame seed. So sesame seed, of course, is very good and favorite crop in India. But as far as Africa right now is concerned, we are almost through in East Africa. Our season is almost at the end of the season, and West is starting now, and we have another week for Nigeria to start, and another 1 month, 1.5 months for Burkina and other crops to start. And if you ask the market right now, the market right now is all dependent on Pakistan crop and how Pakistan crop will be quantity wise. Because there is a bit of confusion, because they started with 600,000 ton. Now They are talking of 400,000 ton crop, but nobody is sure how much is the crop exactly, because it's everyone has got a different figure from there. But I believe whatever said and done, they will have a crop of 300,000 ton minimum. It could be more, of course, more than that, but that's the minimum crop they will have. So everything is dependent on the Pakistan right now, and how Pakistan will behave and how Pakistan will take the prices forward will have impact on our West African market and the prices down there. And East Africa is almost through. So I mean, the shipments are going on and shipments are reaching China. And China is not much active right now. Japanese are buying, but they are buying November, December, January sort of shipments. So they are buying forward. They are just covering their productions. And Turkey is just watching from outside what's happening in the market because of the prices. They are also worried, and they have shipments coming from Brazil, and they have shipments coming from other countries, which is slightly at a higher prices. So they are just watching the market exactly.
So one more question, Alok, you have been tracking this industry for a long, and sorry for my own ignorance, because I am not I've been tracking this commodity for a long time. So my understanding, if you see that our sowing has been very flat for past 4 to 5 years when it comes to sesame, and actually we are having next door neighbors, right? Definitely India is closer to Japan, South Korea, and China, which among themselves consume 80% of all the global trade. Right, but
Yeah.
still, we are not looking at it or cultivating to the mindset, because Rajasthan, Gujarat, as such, we have not too many crops. We can definitely grow something which is more export oriented. Any reason why we are, in fact, even this year it is down by
I can
1%?
give you the reason why Pakistan, they increase their production, because their export to China is duty free and they have a market in China. India is not having that preferential trade agreement with China for duty. I'm talking about duty. There is a 10% duty if we import Indian sesame seed in China, but there is 0% when you are importing from Pakistan or the countries we are talking in Africa. So this gives you incentive. You are at least selling 10% higher in the market. If the Indian price is 1100, just for example, this has nothing to do with the market. 1100, then easily you can get 1100 plus 10% for other origin. So that is the reason Pakistan feel. And the second is which is also there for Indian market, the transit time. The transit from Pakistan and India is very good, but the problem is the Pakistan having a duty tariff arrangement with the China, whereas India doesn't have. This is one of the reasons why Pakistan is growing and increasing the production. And of course, they are always in need of foreign currency, which is another thing for that, because the foreign currency which they are getting for exporting sesame seed, they are utilizing there for import, just like Ethiopian trade. Same exactly the pattern which Ethiopians are using. They bring the money into the bank. They have their own allocation. They have their own preferential arrangement when they want to pay for the import. They may earn maybe 5% or 2% or 3% in export, but they will earn 20% or 25% in import. So that's the same trade what Ethiopia used to do, now Pakistan is doing. So Pakistan will grow and grow because they have foreign currency, they have duty free, they have 10 days transit to China, everything is in their favor. Now, when you come to India, the export market is slow down, though quality, there was absolutely no problem. And the second problem with Indian sesame seed is in Japan, they have banned it because of the pesticide. So pesticide issue was there. And then in Japan, if you exceed the pesticide limit, then automatic rejection is there. So that is why India sesame seed is not going to Japan. So the two major market is not there. Third, India is having an industry development already for hulled sesame seed, and they are #1 exporter of hulled sesame seed around the world. So they prefer for the hulling rather than going for the natural sesame seed and competing with all African or Pakistan countries. So these are 3-4 reasons which I could see why India is doing. And weather has played, it was not favorable in Gujarat, because Gujarat MP, these are the major, and obviously Rajasthan, these are the major producing sesame seed area in India. Weather was not so favorable in the last 2-3 years in India.
Okay. Going to you, Jayesh bhai, understanding on Sudan and Nigeria, I think, and even Ethiopia, they have been doing pretty decent as part the production of this. How do you see going forward? Do you think production of these countries are going to increase, or they have also reached plateau because the demand has been restricted, or do you see the demand also increase going forward?
Look, I think Deepak bhai, the last couple of years, Sudan and Ethiopia both had a lot of challenges. Sudan had a war, and obviously the Ethiopia had a civil war where the problems have been there. So, Ethiopia used to produce almost about 350, 370,000 tons, which has dropped to almost half now, the thing. Sudan was also like almost the 500,000 ton plus, but obviously with the time that last 2 years, their production also has gone down to 50%, almost about 300,000 tons. But this year, as we spoke recently about a few weeks back, the gentleman from Sudan has confirmed that the war is almost getting over, and now the plantation is well. So this year we expect the Sudan productions to be not normal, but obviously will be definitely better than the last year, and that's what I feel that thing. Just coming back to the add of the one point on you're talking about the India. I think India point of view that there is one thing that the oil, although the sesame is a oil seed, but I think we have to categorize the oil sesame as a niche crop as opposed to the other thing. So that this oil seed does not fall in the priority in the government of India. I think that is the one thing. And secondly, the size of the trade, it's almost a negligible trade. The total trade may not be on $500 million as such. So it's a very small trade. And I think that is where I think it's losing the attention of the government on that particularly. So these are just my views on specifically on India as such.
But in case suppose government interest, because see, this is a crop which is MSP is declared. So definitely government's focus is not there, but it is having far more focus than so many crops. India is having 400 crops, only 20-25 odd have MSP, and this is one of the crops which do have MSP. Now, in case because I was pretty fascinated when I was reading about sesame, its application is huge, and India has been a very strong supplier to European Union. But somehow we are losing that edge, with other countries, and as rightly shared by Alok bhai, that actually even Pakistan is doing better than us now. People are waiting for a crop of Pakistan, right, to come to an outlook. That doesn't give me a lot of happiness and pleasure, right? So in case we want to change that, if we want to change that, what do you think should be the way forward? Because yes, definitely on the pesticide part we should work. Right, I'll try to work on that and then see where we can involve some of the government initiatives. But if we want to make a double this trade going forward, and it's a pretty robust crop. The crop is not that sensitive. So it's good for if we are in Gujarat and Rajasthan, we can grow more. Your views how we can increase the market size or the market pie.
I have a sorry to say, although we do not like, but sometimes that we do got to accept the reality. The reason why I'm trying to say is the thing, end of the day, everything boils back to the economics. And I think currently, if you look at the world demand supply, it's about 2.6 million ton, 2.7 million ton demand supply. In fact, we have a oversupply as compared to the demand that we consider as such. I think demand is about 2.6 million tons. The supply is almost 2.7 million tons. 3 years back, the situation was different. And the Pakistan was not actually exporters. Brazil was not there. But in last 3 years, they have actually come up with the almost 25% of the productions. Brazil is almost 150,000 tons. Pakistan is, Alok is saying 400,000 tons. Another 100,000 tons is being added on top of that. So it's about, let's take it 300,000, 300 plus 150 is almost for 500,000 tons combined between the Brazil and the Pakistan, which was not there in the supply chain earlier. And that is almost the 20-25% of the world global demand. Right? So considering this view, I don't think so. This market currently is quite bearish. I think that will not encourage the farmers in India to increase the productivity or to have any sort of incentive as such, unless if you are just being emotional about the crop.
Right. No, I totally agree. Now, moving a little bit, sir, emotional thought, that is the nature of Indians. Right? We become emotional on so many things and so regularly. Right. And now coming to another very interesting crop, sir, though it is very important to India also, the sunflower, right? It is also grown in Africa. So I would take your brief comments on do you see Africa playing a little bit more role in because see, if you see one of the edible oil which has increased substantially in import in percentage term is sunflower, right? And Sandeep, I would also agree with me that this could be a very interesting crop. And Africa grows quite a lot of sunflower. In fact, I was in Africa, I was going across, and a lot of people talk to me that how we can increase the yield productivity. Can India have some commitments of buying sunflower from India? Your views on that, growing sunflower in Africa and taking it forward, specifically in Eastern Africa?
Deepak, to be honest, in the oilseed point of view, except the sesame, I don't see that the Africa would play any role in terms of the exporters of meeting the world demand as such. We still have a long way to go to meet our own demand as such. And this is in a nutshell. So I don't think we are not going to disturb the world demand supplies or to have any impact. In fact, we will still remain a customer for the Indonesia. We also do refine in Malawi, in the part of the world, and we still depend on Malaysia and then Indonesia to supply. So I don't think so. Africa will, in nearest future, in next coming 8 to 10 years, I don't think so. We will be there for the exports.
Oh, perfect. No, I understand. But just food for thought. Sunflowers yields are one of the highest actually when it comes to extraction, close to 49%. So could be a good crop in case ever Africa thinks about self-sufficiency. It could be one option. Alok bhai, your views on this, right? You're happy supplying to Africa the edible oil also?
I agree with JAYESH bhai, in Africa, West Africa, I have not seen much of this sunflower crop yet. In the countries I'm traveling to. East Africa, yes, Tanzania is growing, Malawi is growing, and to some extent, maybe Uganda is growing. So we have seen the crop there, but not in a big quantity as such. Secondly, whatever they grow, they have a crushing facility over there. So they are not looking at an export of anything, and whatever they are crushing, they are using it. Secondly, other than sesame seed, we have soya everywhere in Africa. In all the African countries, in almost all the countries, soya is grown. And you have facilities in soya, whether it is directly consumed or whether it is, by way of oil or by way of DOC or by way of corn blends. So you have two major crops down there in the form of sesame and soya, which is already grown there. Sunflower is there, but everything is used locally, not for the exports. So that's what I feel. In West Africa, I have not seen, I don't remember seeing sunflower, the way I have seen in East Africa. We have not seen in West Africa yet.
Actually,
just to add on what what Alok bhai is saying. You see, we have a fundamental challenge in Africa. If you look at the farmings in especially the Eastern Central Africa, we are almost the 95% rain-fed. Typically, we have one crop in the year. Okay, and in that one crop, our priority is to focus on the staple food, and that is the maize, sorghum, rice. These are the staple food the thing. So oilseed does not fall actually as a priority for us as the thing. And second point is that all our production, all our farming, except the South Africa or probably the certain part of Zambia, it is still done by the smallholders and very much in a manual form. It's like the thing. We are not gone to the bullocks and tractors as of now. We still have a lot more farming done on a manual basis. So that's the reason we do not see that we still have a long way to go in our, improve our farming skill before we start thinking of this export and other stuff.
But sir, actually, there is so much of land available, and with that, I'll go to Sandeep bhai because, he's someone who travels across the globe. finding new places to get edible oil for India. Sandeep bhai, Africa, I see a good agroclimatical zone. And sir, your views overall on sunflower sector, because when we see the seed part of it, 60 million metric ton produce, nearly 50% of that coming from Russia and Ukraine, right? So we are too dependent on a very small geography. Then some of it come from Latin America as well. But predominantly the elephant in the room is that Russia and Ukraine. And even in oil part, we see that out of 22 million metric ton, a substantial part of it, nearly 50% come from these two countries. Is it a time the world think about, and as far as Indian, our own, we are hardly 60,000 hectares of sunflower being grown, while we talk a lot about it, but when you convert into numbers, it's hardly any number, 0.375 million tons of sunflower seeds. It's nothing. Do you see that the taste changing and overall outlook for you, sir, for sunflower, because even there our imports are increasing?
See, now before the war, Ukraine was world's #1 producer, producing about 17 million tons of sunseed, which last year came down to 14.5, and this year, because of the hot and dry season, the dryness was very much there. So it is going to come down to 12.5 million tons of crop from Ukraine this 24-25. Russia, which also had about after the war, during the war, Russia took the lead, and Russia production went up to 17.5 million ton, which again, due to dryness and weather conditions, this year it will come down to 16.5 million ton. So Russia will give us 16.5, Ukraine will give us 12.5, Europe will give us 10 million, Argentina will give us 4 million. Totally in the world, 50.5 million tons. Last year were roughly about 52 million tons crop. This year it will be lower by about 49 million tons crop of sunflower. Sunflower usually is a very high oil content seed, as all of you know, 40% to 42%. But in Ukraine, some varieties, they were getting even 44%. I went to Ukraine before the war, and the soil is very good. The whole industry is very well set there, but because of the devastation brought in by war, they have severe problems. But still, I must admire their courage and effort that they have continued to produce, and they have continued to process and then export. That was a great thing. Although shipping out from there became a challenge, big vessels could not go. So they had to go by rail, road, or maybe small vessels to nearby Turkey or Romania and Bulgaria and ship out from there. And now and then again, some big vessels started with the heavy insurance premiums to load from Ukraine. So we have been continuously buying in India, except first 2.5 months or 3 months of the war, when the shipment stopped. Everything otherwise, Ukraine origin cargo is coming to India. Russia has become #1 supplier to India now. Total import of sunflower, let's see, this earlier is going to go out 3.5 million tons in India. Out of 3.5 million tons, roughly Russian sun oil will be, which is coming here, will be about 1.9 to 2 million tons. Ukrainian sun oil will be roughly about 600, 700,000 tons. The rest is going to come from Europe, another 400,000 tons, and Argentina will give us 400 to 500,000 tons. This way it is 3.5 million ton import of sunflower oil is taking place into India. And now, as far as growing is concerned, yes, the yields also there in normal time in Ukraine are 2,200 to 2,400 kgs per hectare. In Russia, it is 1,800 to 2,000 kgs. When we experimented with sunflower, we didn't have great yields, and over the years we really fell short. Yields were low, the soil, we could not protect the crop. So 94, 95, 96, 97, we had one time 800,000 tons of sunflower seed production, which has come down abysmally low. Now government is making fresh efforts to start again focusing on soybean, rapeseed and sunflower. So market is there. So I believe if sincere efforts are made again and all the agri system is geared up again, so we can increase sunflower production here. As our friends from Africa, what they're saying is right. Soybean is #1 crop there. India imports such a big quantity of soybean from there, more than 500,000 tons, which I think more than that also it's coming in. And sesame, sunflower, whatever is not from the seed form, what comes from them is sunflower cake. which comes, or maybe that's because oil they need for their own self. That's what they said.
Yeah.
So sunflower cake which comes, and which solvent extraction guys buy that sunflower cake. Yeah, that's what it is from there. So yes, I must tell you one thing about sunflower. In soybean or in palm, if you really see that world produces roughly about, you can say, total palm production in the world is about 70 million tons, 75 million tons. Out of 75 million tons, it is 20 million tons which goes in biodiesel production. So just imagine in soybean, the world produces about 50 million tons of soybean oil. Out of 50 million tons of soybean oil, again, roughly about 16 million ton goes into biodiesel. Some similar kind of a story is for rapeseed oil in the world. Sunflower is the only oil from 50 million tons of seed, we produce 21 million tons of oil. And out of 21 million tons of oil, biodiesel is not more than 0.3 million. So 20.7 million tons of sun oil is available for food. So I must say sunflower is the most food-friendly oil. And as so that when a food versus fuel debate comes up, we always appreciate sunflower. That is food with us all the time. And sunflower, the more production you increase, definitely more for food you can use that oil. This year is a problem, as I told you, this year because of the hot and dry conditions in Russia and Ukraine, the crop is going to be lesser by 3.5 million tons, and yield is also lower in Ukraine from 40 to 44 oil percent. This year yield looks like 38-40, and Russia also yield is lesser by 1-2 kgs. So overall, oil-wise, last year we had 22 million tons of sun oil in the world. This year it doesn't look like more than 19 million tons because of this reason. But that out of 19 million tons, 18.7 will come for food. Biodiesel hardly anything will go. So this is the situation in sunflower. I think India should grow more sunflower. We have a rate of sunflower, and we have a big refining and branding industry in sunflower in India, where bigger companies are buying great amount of sunflower. And we have been, despite war in Russia and Ukraine, India was the only country which could diversify its sources of supply. And before the war, hardly any oil used to come from Russia, but immediately we made contacts. Top 10 Russian companies are directly selling into India now. We have regular communication with them. So Ukrainian top companies, Russian top companies, Argentine, Romania, Bulgaria, other European companies, Turkey, we're getting sunflower oil from everywhere now today. So we have the minister, Piyush Goyal, got really worried when the Ukraine-Russia war took place, and because the sunflower oil had vanished from European shelves. So he said, what is going to happen in India? How we will tackle the consumer demand? That time in the evening, 8 o'clock, he came over the WebEx, Secretary Food and the minister. So we only told him, sir, there is a supply available. We will tap the additional supply from different parts of the world. But you only have to help us in the requisite payment modes and systems, because for Russian imports, every bank doesn't open LC. It's not very easy to pay them in dollars. There are a lot of issues. So he said you have to allow at least 1 or 2 banks who can get the CAD documents, and we can pay out against those documents in dollars. So I think SBI and HDFC, these 2 banks are helping in this payment. And documents come through CAD, and we pay out. We are able to pay out $20 million, so there's no issue. But they have a bigger scrutiny. For 1 week, documents are being scrutinized. The owner, beneficial owner, whether it under sanctions or no. Then whether vessel owner or vessel owning company is under sanction, or any ownership, beneficial ownership. The insurance company also is under great scrutiny. So it's a great amount of scrutiny which goes for 7-8 days, but then ultimately they pay out. Unless and until there is some kind of issue, we have not experienced rejection till now. But this is how it's being done. So I want to say there was a challenge, there was an issue, there was a problem, but India met in the private sector, and all of us really made great effort to diversify sources and see that Indian consumer was continuously supplied sunflower oil without any interruption or disruption, and at the most reasonable prices. Today, I can tell you one thing. August shipment today, sunflower oil India is $1,000. August shipment today, crude palm oil is $990. And August shipment soybean oil today is also $1,000. So it's like $1,000 is the price. You pick up which oil you want. You want sunflower oil, soybean oil, or palm oil. That's it.
No, so there was a question somebody was asking, like, palm and health. So now you make a call. We are in that, like, industry. We are not nutritionists, right? Whatever oil you want, Sandeep bhai has ensured that you get all of them for $1,000. So pick your own oil. And Sandeep bhai, any views on the mustard or rapeseed, right? How do you see that? Because we had, like, it was below MSP. Big production this year, like, close to 13.16 million metric ton. Government intervened to, like, Haryana, they bought everything literally, right? Now, there is a challenge. They are sitting with so much of mustard, right? Now, what to do with that mustard? Because, like, either government will have to get into the milling and they'll have to start crushing, because there is no use as such of, like, mustard until unless, like, you crush it.
See, you're right, Deepak Bhai. As I said in the earlier panel also, that one side you're increasing MSP, other side you're seeing that edible oil prices should remain depressed. You have a lower input duty. You want to make consumers very happy. You're going to mismatch, and in that mismatch, as processor or the solvent extractor is getting extracted, so there is no parity for him. It's a negative margin for him. How will he buy sunflower rapeseed and process and then get the oil, and where will he sell the oil? So in the private industry could not play its due role, despite we have such a big demand and we have to import so much. The seed remained seed, and government has declared MSP. The government had to buy. Election year, there was no way. In initial year itself, we told that crop is look like our trade estimate was about 11.5 to 12 million tons. And we said out of that, NAFED will have to procure, and the government agency will have to procure 2.53 million. Otherwise, there is no way you can at least give a semblance of support to a support price. So that's what they did. And they had to, in their coffers, half-way this way, state federations or the NAFED together have got more than 2.5 million tons of seed. So this will remain now, and they will have to wait it out, and maybe in the off season, maybe from October onwards, they started small auctions and all that. But September, October, they will have to start selling this in the next 4 months before the new crop comes in. Sometime it can happen. They can carry it for 2 years. 10 years back, it happened in NAFED. That time they procured so much of seed. So, but rapeseed is a seed which doesn't deteriorate much. You can store it. It's not the problem that you have to dispose of within 6 months or 12 months. You can, if a good storage is made, the moisture is controlled, then you can store it even for 1.5 to 2 years. That's not a problem. But see, this is the whole disharmony in the government policy. That one side you are thinking X, other side you are thinking Y, and there is no correlation between X and Y. So you want to support farmer by higher MSP, no problems. Industry is ready to support farmer, but then increase the duty. See that if prices of veg oil are in such a level that it is remunerative for somebody to buy seed at that price and crush it and sell the oil and cake in the market. So that is not happening. And this is how it is. In soybean also, this is a challenge. You have announced an MSP about 4,900 per quintal, and soybean seed is selling between 44 and 46. So farmer is not happy, and government had to suffer in the central election. So votes from some constituency where farmer is very focused. There they had a problem, and I believe in the upcoming assembly elections also. This is a challenge which they are thinking. No, consumer is super important, and making farmer is also consumer at the end. They have their own analogy and thinking. We have argued a lot of time with them. So we can't help it. I would rather say the best solution is that there are two solutions. Number one is whatever you want to declare and pay as MSP, you don't buy it MSP, store it, and then incur huge cost. That is your support price you have declared. Let the goods go in the market and let it be sold at the market price. You take an average daily price in all the mandis of Rajasthan or Madhya Pradesh. You declare that today's market price is this. Suppose your MSP in soybean is 4,900 and your today market sold at 4,500. 400 rupees per quintal, you remit directly to farmer's account. You have such a robust fintech system now in India. You are, as it is, giving those to farmers. 6,000 rupees हम देंगे, 2,000 का installment में central government देगा, state government देगा. You're doing all that and you're directly putting into farmers account all the money. So why not? The implementation of MSP is not Why not done by Bhavantar or direct payment to farmer's account? By that way, what will happen is the seed will sell at market price, the processor will buy at market price, process it, and then make a oil and cake out of it and sell it in the market. The domestic flow of industry also will work. At the same time, your export channel also will be operational. So this is, if government wants to deal all this disharmony, still adopt a different method, then disharmony impact will be lower. Secondly, increasing MSP year on year is not the solution. You have to increase the yield, and that is where the whole problem lies. We have to increase the yield. In soybean, we have a yield of 1,100 kgs per hectare. I was in Brazil, they have 3,500 kgs per hectare. Okay, large farms, mechanization, we can understand. But at least from 1,000, 1,100, you can go to 1,700, 800 by improving agricultural practices, new generation seeds, maybe BT seeds, and some different agriculture practices. So, demonstration farms by which you can also increase. So, I believe India has to make a very strong effort in getting new varieties of seed. I think Prime Minister last week only released 109 varieties of different crops of seed and all that, and they have announced in budget that they will really focus on seed and all the agriculture practices. These are announcements. Let's see if the things happen on the ground very fast. That is the need of our. In every crop, I think, especially the pulses, the oilseed, the cotton. Cotton we have linked per hectare 400 to 500 kgs per hectare production of the linked in the cotton crop. Brazil, I was there, it was 1400 kgs. So everywhere there is a scope, at least 50% will increase without having a large farms, without having a great amount of mechanization. Some mechanization, some FPOs coming together, some farmers, big farmers coming together, and also by improving agriculture practices and demonstration farm and new seed varieties, 50% yield can be increased. So I think if we do that and focus on increasing yield, then all this disharmony in the system will be removed. And farmer will be happy. The processor can process and sell in domestic market or export market, and consumer also will get a reasonable price. Reasonable price, I doesn't mean cheap price and very cheap price. Very cheap price is always a problem, because if you sell everything any cheap for some time, then you have to pay double the price after a few years. So you have to be at a reasonable price. So I think consumer get at a reasonable price. So this is the overall approach which government needs to adopt, and they are realizing in bits and pieces. But I think they have to take a 70 mm view, or else 360 dome view nowadays, they say, instead of 70 mm view. So government is so fast in implementation, see many of these schemes we saw, Jan Dhan scheme, this scheme, that scheme, and even the solar scheme, even the highways, even all these things they are building. They are so fast, and I must admire their efficiency in implementation. But as far as agriculture is concerned, as far as food is concerned, they are all mixing up with their short-term priorities and long-term goals, and it's all getting mismatched with each other. I think they will have to really focus and work. If we work, I think India has got enough talent and energy, and we have got now so many new startups which are doing so much of good work in agriculture. Our Deepak Bhai himself is doing so much work in agriculture and consultancy and other things. So I believe we have so much entrepreneurial energy now. I believe with this, if rightly put and rightly channelized, we can do at least much better than what we are doing in agriculture and make everybody happy. Thank you.
No, sir, totally agree. In fact, we are trying a lot to push through the seed bill, sir. 2004 से सर वो पड़ा हुआ है, कभी आता है, कभी JPC में चला जाता है, फिर घूम जाता है, right? And it has not been tabled. And sir, the problem is that new seed one is ICAR is doing, so Modi ji has released it, but you need private player also to come in, because just government institution cannot do that. But the private institutions or private players, they are worried that where is my IP protection? If I put effort of 4 years, put in a couple of $1 million to come out with a good seed, I need my intellectual property being protected. And that seed bill is having that, but actually for 20 years, we have not been able to get it through. We are trying to do, sir, whatever from our side, engaging with government to do at least small thing which is not having economical implication on the government taken care of. With that, we come to the end of this awesome session on oilseed, and we are having had some of the really eminent speakers here, some of the stalwart of the industry, and I'm so blessed that actually they are always available Alok bhai, Jayesh bhai, Sandeep bhai. Your blessings have taken, it's of a huge value. And thanks a lot for joining, and looking forward to see you all in Dubai in November. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Deepak ji.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Alok bhai, Jayesh bhai, bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.